Victorian Society
by Aaron Gray and Sydney Palinko.
Queen Victoria reigned from 1837 to 1901, which is the longest reign to date. Alexandrina Victoria inherited the throne at age 18 after her father's 3 elder brothers died. She had few direct political powers because the constitutional monarchy had already been established in the United Kingdom.
The Victorian era was a time of peace, prosperity, refined sensibilities, and national self-confidence. The Pax Britannica also occurred during Queen Victoria's reign and was a period of relative peace in Europe. This period marked a time of expansionism and imperialism, with unchallenged sea power which enabled them to have immense strength.
Victorian morals consisted of sexual restraint, a low tolerance of crime, and a strict social code of conduct, along with a refined sense of religion and elitism. A well-known myth of the time was that Queen Victoria insisted that furniture legs be covered with embroidery cloth because uncovered legs were considered vulgar. Despite these high values, prostitution was still common.
The cult of domesticity was common throughout Great Britain during Victorian rule. This system required that women of the upper and middle classes serve as nurturing mothers, devoted wives, as well as submissive, pure, fragile, and upstanding beings. They were also expected to be devout Christians and to instill these characteristics in their kin.
The Industrial Revolution caused a surge in manufacturing, which resulted in the population doubling in England. But as the factories grew, new workers had to be found. Child labor became more prevalent as the century progressed. In these times, children were often forced to work from before sunrise until after sunset in dangerous working conditions.
Railroads were an obvious sign of progress in the UK. People and goods were now able to move through the island nation quickly and more efficiently. Each train consisted of 3 class divisions among its rail carriages. The first class carriage was similar to a horse carriage. The second classes had a roof and seats but no sides. The third class cars had no roofs, no sides, and no seats, which made travel dangerous.
As exhibited by the railroad class system, new social classes emerged during this time that changed the dynamics of Victorian society. The bourgeoisie middle class evolved. The members of this class had an outward display of wealth through their possessions and clothing. They also had leisure time, which allowed them to partake in activities such as plays, travel, music, and sporting events.
Wealthy Victorian women demonstrated their position in society through their extravagant dress. The dresses themselves were extremely modest, yet they accentuated womanly characteristics like the bosom and waist. The dresses were extremely complex, consisting of many components such as mantelets, sleeves, and crinoline petticoats. These ornate costumes were made possible by the recently invented sewing machine and the development of synthetic dyes.
With the railroad extended and allowing for easier travel, many people flocked to the seaside to enjoy the warm sunshine. This called for a new style, swimwear. Swimwear of this era was still very conservative, but more practical than earlier pieces. Bathing machines were driven into the water and served as rooms for the bather to undress and dress without revealing their bodies.
Art in this time period corresponded with the excessive ornamentation of all aspects of Victorian society. Art and architecture moved away from the rationalism of the Georgian era to the romanticism and mysticism of the Gothic Revival. One of the most renowned examples of the Gothic Revival is the Palace of Westminster, which today is the center for the House of Parliament.